Hey there, it's me, Crystal. One of the things I want to do whenever I publish a book is answer some fun questions about the book because it'll be super fun. So, this is the book I'm talking about. No Rest for the Wicked. It is a paranormal book about a 21-year-old psychic named Tatum. She has kind of unconventional powers in addition to being able to reach inside people's heads and see their past, present, and future, almost as if she's like a fly on the wall. She can also make like plagues and curses and also nice things that she sells on the supernatural black market. Of course, when you're dealing with a black market, most people want the less nice things. So basically what happens in the story is she meets this creepy trash peddler who wants to recruit her to work for his boss. So a couple of questions that I had that I wanted to ask is, one was what inspired the story, and one was where I get my character names from. With this particular story, it's kind of hard to like pinpoint what inspired it. It was kind of like part like fear of the dark and part like wanting to write something that was creepy and like from the point of view of somebody who like was super imperfect. And also like I wanted something that was just a little bit bloody. It had been a while. When it came to the character names, so I'm kind of like a hoarder when it comes to character names. I have like a super long list on my phone. I have two actually really long lists on my phone of character names. And Tatum is like Turkish American, and so I wanted her last name to reflect that, and so I had that on my list. Luckily, that I found on like a podcast I was thinking about listening to one time. And the person doing the podcast, she was from, I don't know if she's Turkish, but she's from around that general area. And Tatum was a name that I had on my list. Originally, her name was going to be Ariana. It's kind of like, once I met Tatum, I was like, okay, her name is not Ariana. Her name was supposed to be Ariana Contes, because I thought that was like really pretty. But then when I met her, I was like, okay, no. And I had Tatum on my list. And so sometimes when I don't know my characters' names, or like when they make me hunt for their names, I scroll through my list of names until something sticks out. And when I was scrolling through it, Tatum stuck out. And so that's how she got her name. And that's how a lot of the characters got their names. They either told me or I scrolled through the list and it stuck out and I wrote it down. So a couple of scenes that were like super fun to write. So in chapter 3, when we see Tatum doing readings for the first time, she's like kind of like messing with people and she's like super sarcastic. It's just one of those scenes that like every time I read it, I'm just like laughing. And it was a lot of fun. And there's also a scene near the end, because of course climaxes are always fun, where there's like a fire, and then like there's like a bunch of crazy things that happen. It was just really exciting, and I always love to write stories that have like really exciting climaxes like that, because it gives me something to look forward to too while I'm writing. So I started this story, I want to say like July 2015, and I also want to say I stopped working on it in August 2015, because when I started the story I kind of knew where it was going, but I didn't have like a solid ending. And I'm just one of those writers where like I have to know where I'm going or I'm just gonna mess everything up. So it was painful and I didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to wreck the story either. So I set the story down with the hopes that the ending would come to me later. And so 7 months later, I had just finished something else and it was like this big mess. And I was like, oh my gosh. so And I was also like kind of coming out of a writing crisis. And so I picked up this book and I was like, let me try one more time to see if I can get this thing to work. And I sat down and I read over it and everybody was still in my head, thank goodness. And I was still really excited about the story and I was still laughing and I was still having fun. And the ending was coming together. So that was exciting. So that was, I think, end of March 2016, and I finished the first draft, I think about 1 o'clock-ish in the morning, May 31st, June 1st. So all in all, I think it took me 5 months to write. I'm pretty sure my average is about 4 months, so it took a little bit longer because I had more kinks to work out than I do in other stories. But yeah, so I let it sit for a while, and then I did the editing, and then I edited some more, and then some more, and some more, and now I have a book to hold. So I do want to talk about the title, No Rest for the Wicked. It's not a super unique title, but it was very fitting for the story. Originally, I was calling it Legion, which kind of fit, but I didn't really like it. So one of the things I do when I'm trying to come up with a title is I just make a list of like any words or themes or anything that I think come up in the story. And when I wrote down Restless and Wicked, I was like, no, those have to go in the story. And I think there's some quote that's like, no rest for the wicked, no peace for the weary, or something like that. It's like the perfect title for the story. It fits Tatum, and it fits the plot, and it fits all the other characters. And I also thought it would be fun to mention like my favorite character in the book. And I love everybody in the book, but there's this one minor character named Mona. She works down the black market in the underground, and she sells like these really creepy voodoo dolls. And she's one of those people that she's like dark, and she's always asking Tatum to like make her like these really questionable things. Like she wants some kind of tonic to knock her husband out for a few days, and like Tatum kind of makes this commentary that her husband probably doesn't really deserve it. But of course she makes it anyway because hey, she's not gonna judge, right? But yeah, I kind of like Mona too because she's like crazy and she's dark and like she doesn't care, you know? I think it would be fun to write like a short story like just with all these characters in the underground because there's some really interesting people down there. So No Rest for the Wicked is a standalone. I do kind of have an idea for like a companion sequel, but I don't have a plot for it, and I usually brainstorm stories for a while before I write them, so I don't know if it's going to happen. I am not a series writer or even a duology writer or a trilogy writer. I do have one idea in the pipeline that's probably going to be a duology, but I kind of have to wait and see how it's baking. So as usual, you can like this video and subscribe if you want to. Also have links to my blog and my website and everything in the description box. And that is all for this video. I will see you next time. Bye.